Okay.
Perfect. Thank you, Casey.
Mhm.
All right, well, we can go ahead and get started then. Hi, Janet. Nice to see you again. If you could, if everyone could just put their name and their organization into the chat as well, very quickly. Martin, good to see you as well. Great, thank you. Here, I'm going to start sharing my screen here. Great, we're in business. Matt, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Hey, everybody. I'm Matt Bogosian from the American Manufacturing Communities Collaborative, and David, our operations director, and I are delighted to be back with our friends and cohorts in the great state of Utah. So this is a continuing set of activities around creating a dashboard really for regions to kind of understand, self-assess their own manufacturing ecosystem. So anyway, it's great to be back with you. Wish I was in person. It was so great to be there in Utah when we did visit earlier this year. A big thank you to all of you for participating in this. What we're going to do today is roll up our sleeves. Here we go. I'm rolling up my sleeves right now, where we're actually going to be populating a map. You guys are on the cutting edge of this stuff. I'm going to run through like these first 10 slides here, just to level set for everybody. I know not everyone on this call or maybe listening to this recorded call will be dialed into kind of the background that has led to where we are today. So these first 10 slides will help you, level set on where we are with the project that I'll describe, so that we can all roll up our sleeves, add our value from whatever perch you happen to occupy within the ecosystem, so that we can really develop this national tool. So as I'll say over and over again, and David will amplify, you guys are on the cutting edge of developing this national tool for regions around the country. It's an awesome opportunity for Utah, and we totally appreciate it. Also, on behalf of other regions around the country and our partners at the National Institute of Standards Technology and other federal agencies. So David, let me run through those first 10 level setting. Just to confirm, my sleeves are rolled up right there, so you guys know. Yeah. All right, so kind of level set. AMCC is designated as the National Manufacturing Community of Practice by the Department of Commerce's Economic Development Administration. It has a long history, and Utah has been part of that important part of that history, trying to strengthen our manufacturing regions around the country and our nation as a whole. And the way we frame this thing is around these three lenses. One is it manufacturing, all kind of manufacturing? Well, it's most, I would say, but we prioritize these 6 industries. And you can see there's a link at the bottom there as to kind of why we got to these 6 industries. It's really important for America's long-term sustainability that we do very well in defense, energy, transportation, agriculture, IT, comms, and health. The second lens is, well, you just can't say that and top down it. What we've learned over the last decade is you've got to strengthen regions bottom up. And where that comes in is you got to do that with these 6 ecosystem component parts. In other words, for a region to thrive in the 21st century in manufacturing, it's got to be sufficiently effective in all 6 of these overlapping areas: workforce and training, research and development. You can see the list there. And there's more on the Big Six you can see on that link on this slide. And then what is the goal, right? That's the third lens that we look at, where we want a sustainable society. And of course, it means economic competitiveness in regions and across the country and the nation as a whole. But that in and of itself is insufficient, right? It needs to be done with inclusion, environmental sustainability, and security. And so that sustainable development is the third lens that we look at. So next slide there, David. And so over the course of the last decade, there have been a lot of different interventions, some at the local level, some at the state level, but now even more so at the federal level, adopting this ecosystem approach of strengthening our regional manufacturing ecosystems and thereby our manufacturers. We have roughly, give or take 200,000 to 300,000 manufacturers in the United States. Some of the bigs are big, but of course we have these very deep supply chains, which is a lot of small and medium-sized manufacturers, and we need to help strengthen them across the board. And so what are these federal interventions? This congressional research report starts to list the more recent federal interventions to strengthen the manufacturing ecosystem, those 6 parts we talked about, the 6 parts in regions around the country. So you can see, as you guys know, in Utah, but around the country, the DoD, Defense Manufacturing Community Support Program is one of those. NIST MEP and the Manufacturing USA programs are part of this ecosystem approach. EDA, National Science Foundation, Department of Energy, and so on. Lots of other folks getting into the act. Try to get insight for regions on how to more effectively utilize these federal interventions is one of the objectives of what we're trying to do. So you can see on this slide, the consortium transform those interventions into outputs and outcomes. So it's a little overwhelming, right? We're borrowing from this emerging science called complex system science. And so we're applying complex system science to strengthening our manufacturing ecosystems. And so, understanding where we are in regions in terms of who our stakeholders are and the interventions that are already in play is a super important step in terms of improving the outcomes that we want. And so we've heard over and over again over the years, it'd be great if there was a tool where regional leaders, from whatever perch they happen to be, not just the big shots or CEOs of nonprofits or manufacturers or support organizations and government or wherever they happen to exist, but from any perch, that you can dive in and understand who your regional stakeholders are, so that you can see where you and your organization can add value to strengthening the ecosystem. It's got to be an open source tool. We have all kinds of data that's out there. It's just not well organized. So this tool and a playbook of tactics, we hope, will emerge from this process. And so you can see here in this set, what we're trying to do is to really develop that tool, and our partnership with you guys and some other regions in developing what your map looks like in Utah is really going to inform the tool development process. We're not going to be doing this intense type of workshop everywhere, just with some of our leading regions, to include Utah here, where you can give us your take on how it really works in the real world in Utah to inform how we develop really an online tool so other regions around the country can visualize what they're doing, identify those component parts, do a gap analysis to inform better interventions going forward. So next slide. So you can see this is kind of a timeline of what we've been learning, this IMCP effort that Utah was a part of, going back to 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016. That's what on that 2018 slide says IMCP. It morphed into this organization, American Manufacturing Communities Collaborative, in 2018. And we just kept trudging along, identifying this need from regions around the country. We held a virtual convening last year where we had regional leaders and nonprofits. And, the federal agencies are super into this because, of course, they're now investing in this bottom-up ecosystem approach, and they want to know, hey, what will be better tools and tactics to get outcomes that we want, for regions, and what we want across, for the nation as a whole. And so we've been building this consistent communication all year, and the good news for AMCC is then we got designated as the nation's manufacturing community of practice, and we're partnered. You can see at the bottom there with NIST MEP headquarters, the National Institute of Science and Technology, to work on this project with all these other federal agencies who, like I said, have been investing in this ecosystem approach. We have a budding partnership with Argonne National Lab, which is developing a economic development capacity index and other tools to help regions around the country. So we built some good momentum, but we've got to really ground truth it with regions. And this workshop, your opportunity today and going forward is super important to inform that tool development process. So next slide there, David. So that's what we're talking about here. So stakeholder success in all 6 areas is important. And so this kind of restates what I've said about, developing the tool, so the regions can develop themselves and produce better evidence to inform integrated decision making, and really identify in the big 6 areas, where you might be weak. It's really a gap analysis tool, right? So that when you design and tweak your existing interventions, you can tweak them in a direction that's going to produce, better outcomes. So your interventions will have more efficacy. You want to have cost benefits, like, hey, we don't have a ton of resources in the public-private sector, but the ones that we do have, we want to have them, have the best outcomes to what they were designed to do. So that's what's the exciting part about this tool, the tool development process. And as you'll see, as David, when I hand the ball off to David here in this presentation, some good hard work has already been done, thanks to Marty and Casey and others in Utah already, to get this map going in Utah. So it's exciting. The train's going down the tracks, but we need to really make some good progress today, rolling up our sleeves and giving your take on, from your part of the ecosystem. Everyone only, occupies one perch of the ecosystem. The idea is that you give your take. As if some of you are big shots on this call, I know others occupy mid-level positions, others may just be buried in an organization. Wherever you live in an organization, you got to come out and give us your best take on it. That's what this self-population tool is ultimately going to empower, so that we can, over time, really build the best understanding of Utah's manufacturing ecosystem, but it'll inform the tool that will help regions around the country really get the best take on what they're doing here. So you can see that describing the ecosystem, the interventions, the outputs, and ultimately the outcomes. So you can see at the bottom there, who are the groups of stakeholders? Who are the organs that who right? Let's populate that map here in Utah. Okay, you also know the initiatives and programs, I call them generally interventions. What are the interventions that you know about from not only yourself and your own organization, but other, allied organizations or whatever. Let's get those on the map. And then ultimately, we're going to be talking about the metrics and how do you measure, like progress. You have the measurements of progress within your own organization, but who you collaborate with, obviously, you're also saying, hey, if we collaborate, we're going to produce these outcomes, right? So ultimately, we're going to get there. But really, baby steps, man. It's identifying who your stakeholders are and the interventions at play. That's where we are now. So if you say, oh my gosh, there's metrics here, metrics there, this is a map of kind of where we see nationally. We have all these bottom-up interventions I've been talking about. Well, measurement is, there are many kinds of measurement, and this map tries to describe three general contours of measures that matter, right? So you have at the top there manufacturers themselves. So like I said, we have 2 to 300,000. I can't remember the number in Utah, Marty. I don't know, somebody could chime in. You guys have your arms around kind of the universe of a couple of thousand manufacturers in Utah, whatever it is. Their metrics matter, right? They need to be profitable. They need to, and this MEP, the MEPs in Utah and across the country, they do these annual surveys, or maybe it's every other year, I can't remember, but they do a national survey. So those metrics are evolving and important. You need survivability of your manufacturers, profitability. Metrics for the top part, the regional manufacturers, they matter. That's one set of metrics. A second set of metrics at the very bottom of this chart are all the interveners, right? The people trying to help the manufacturers do super well in those 6 areas: in defense, energy, transportation, agriculture, communications, IT, and health industries, right? If America is going to lead the 21st century, we've got to be doing great in all 6 of those areas. And all of the different interveners are trying to help make that happen. You have a lot of activities already. You've done a lot of leadership in state and local interventions in Utah. Other regions have done the same thing. The new game in town in the last decade has been the federal government coming in and saying, hey, we want to support you local interveners with our own federal interventions. Tweak them to make them work in your region. And so those are now federal interventions with all the different programs I described there. So those, and the federal government, just like the state government and NGO and private interventions, they're all measuring what they're doing, right? Those are important measures, those intervention measures. Well, there's also in between the ecosystem of support. And so that's what we're putting together, is some measurements around the ecosystem of support. And going back 10 years to that IMCP initiative and our work with the National Economic Council, we've identified these big 6 areas as critical. As I started off in the presentation, that's one of our lenses, right? That every manufacturing ecosystem of support needs to be doing well enough in all 6 of these areas. So that's kind of the framework of what we're doing. So, and with you can see in red there, David's got the problem. Without ecosystem metrics, it's unclear how these interventions correlate to the outcomes that we're trying to produce altogether. So you can go to the next slide here. And so, as we shared in person when if you guys were a part of our visit in Utah, our work with the NIST MEP headquarters and these other federal agencies, we've done this is a rough kind of snapshot of just of the big 6. We're just talking about workforce now, manufacturing workforce. This is just a guess about common organizations or stakeholders within a region's manufacturing ecosystem. And so we're not saying this is Utah's necessarily, but we thought it'd be good to have a draft set of likely stakeholders so that you guys, as you're rolling up your sleeves and populating the map in Utah, can go, oh yeah, there's those, what about K through 12? Or, oh gosh, what about those small business programs? Oh yeah, we have a DEI, veterans thing. Every region's got different interventions and activities and stakeholders. And I see some of those heads nodding. So I love that. And so now I'm transitioning to David, who's like actually gets stuff done within AMCC. He's the one that's going to populate the map. It's going to be cool. I'm excited about getting your take right now and seeing how we build out this map in real time today. And then going forward, we're going to be asking you to take, a second step of a 30-minute, on your own session. David can talk about that to do next steps to get others to help populate the map too. So David, why don't I hand it off to you?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I wanted to include just a few slides for everyone because this is, it's a rather complex topic trying to visualize these systems. And when you think of those big 6 that we talk about, what a manufacturing ecosystem really is, is it's a conglomeration of systems that are working on their own and with each other to produce those sort of outcomes that we want to see in a region. So by doing this sort of piecemeal and looking at workforce and development first, we're trying to take a bite out of the elephant, so to speak, to first level set and understand what the value here is for everyone who's participating. So here's an example right here. We talked a little bit about the Investing in Manufacturing Communities Partnership Program, AMCP, that ran from 2014 to 2016. And this is one of the partnerships that was proposed by Connecticut. So you can see on the right there, all of those different organizations and organizations type. It's pretty hard to read. So what we're looking for are those 4 questions down there at the bottom, which is how are the Connecticut stakeholders best measuring the outcomes of this ecosystem, right? You got all of these people together, all these organizations together. So how do you measure the outcomes from that and communicate the value of bringing everyone together to do this sort of work? So looking at it a different way, we pulled out all of the different organization types that are listed on that in that original blue square. And these are all of the different organization types that went in on this proposal together. And you can see them all listed right there. So that's it's a pretty impressive number of organizations trying to collaborate to better manufacturers in their region. And what the goal of this project, at least what we're talking about in this workshop, is how do you visualize the interactions between these organizations and draw some conclusions, or at least some sort of metrics from this as to what they're actually producing. What are the outcomes that are coming out of this? So if we were to put all of these together as a manufacturing ecosystem, you can see that the intervention from the federal government is the IMCP program. Connecticut stakeholders coupled that with funding through something called the Manufacturing Innovation Fund. And that intervention was then digested through all of these organizations to produce their desired outcomes in workforce development, research innovation, and supply chain improvement. So as I just said, we're trying to understand what the actual methods of activity were amongst all of these organizations, and then were there specific structures or specific relationships between organization types that had a more outsized impact on the effectiveness of this program. That would be these yellow associations as opposed to the broader blue associations. So we've already done some of this work, although it's rather initial, with the help of a few people in Utah, Martin Moore from UMA, Beth Rhodes from Weber State, and Janet Smith from Davis Tech. And so you can see, and we'll go into this in a moment and actually look at it, the visualization that we were able to produce from those 3 individuals providing the portion of the ecosystem that they saw. So their organization, their close partners, and then the programs or activities that they were working on to train people or to provide new skills for people in Utah. This is the last slide here, and then we'll get into the actual map. Again, this is just rephrasing top left, those 3 questions that we're hoping to work with you to answer, which is who are the people doing the work in your ecosystem? How are they doing it? What initiatives, programs, interventions? And then how is that being measured through each individual program and then through the aggregate? And on the right, you can see here our current goal where we are now is we're beta testing. So we don't know, we don't have a perfect process for this. We're trying to build out a structured survey, some sort of online dashboard where people can do this work on their own. We're not there yet. Where we are right now is ground truthing this, figuring out the right way to structure the methodology so that it's as easy or as straightforward as possible for regions across the country to do this work without having a really intensive sort of workshopping session as we're doing right now. So I just want to show a couple more things with this map. Let's see, can everyone see this all right? Let me do it new. Screen share. Great. Okay, so right here is version 1.0 of the map that we built along with Weber State, UMA, and Davis Tech. So a few things I want to point out here is you can see there's a little legend on the bottom left. Let's look first. We identified 2 federal agencies. These would be federal interventions that are connected to specific interventions in the region. So from the Department of Defense, we of course identified the Defense Manufacturing Community Support Program that's run by UAMI and supported by the Utah MEP Alliance. We also saw the Department of Labor, which is supporting the Jobs Corps initiative at a number of community colleges, technical schools. And then there are a few unspecified areas where we don't know exactly the specifics quite yet on the different funding streams that go into some of these programs. Next, you can see in the blue all of the programs that were identified by our 3 participants. So if we look again at Utah State funding, we can see 3 different programs that they identified that are being funded directly through the state legislature in one way or another. We can also see some unspecified grant funding for different juvenile justice and Utah State prison programs. And then where it really all comes together is when we add the organizations themselves and making this a more comprehensive map for everyone to see. So you can see things like with Davis Technical College, if I were to hover over it, you can see the relations that a place like Davis Technical College has in relation to its other stakeholders. So you can see its partner organizations. You can see those blue dots, which represent programs that Davis Technical College is undergoing to produce skilled workers through custom fit, through diesel tech pathways, through AM STEM, and other programs like that. If we were to click on these different organizations, you can also receive a little bit of metadata about them, who they are, their website they can go to, and of course, we'll build this out with more details and information as we flesh out all the particulars of the map. The last thing I'd want to show really quick is down here. I just turned on some really simple metrics, nothing crazy right now, just to show how we can measure different, or we can analyze the strength, the degree, and the closeness between organizations in the network. So I'm going to choose the most simple kind of stakeholder mapping metric that they have, which is degree, which simply measures the number of connections that any dot on this map has to other dots. And as you can see, no real surprise here, Davis Technical College and Weber State are in the top 3. It's not because necessarily they're at the center of the ecosystem, but they're the ones who worked with me to build this initial map. And the hope is, as we have, 26 people here who aren't me or Matt, that if you have small amounts of data to add to this, we can, in aggregate, get a pretty good map that shows the interactions between organizations and the programs that they're working on in the region. So with that, I want to first turn it over to Martin Moore really quick, who can maybe give a little bit of background on how he approached this project that he was initially saddled with after our first workshop, and how helpful he's been in introducing us to Janet and Beth. And Janet and Beth, if you both want to chime in here and kind of give your experience with working on this, we'd appreciate that. And then we'll do a quick kind of Q&A for anyone who has burning questions right after that.
But so yeah, I would say I was voluntold is more how it worked out. So we were in a meeting and Dr. Larson from UAMI thought I could kind of shed some light on this situation. My background is from the technical colleges. And then I've been working on apprenticeship and stuff with the Utah Manufacturing Association. So the bones of this thing came from inside my head, really is where it came from. And David was the one that took this information and started this map. And when we first saw it, I mean, it looks amazing from where it's come from. That's for sure, David. And then I grabbed Beth and Jeanette and started to pull in other information that I obviously had blind spots on and I didn't really know. And that's where they came in, because I had just worked with them in the past and I knew that they would know how to fill in a lot of the blanks over here. So Beth, do you want to talk about how you went about that?
Yeah, at first it was this abstract idea. And so seeing this map right now is so pretty. I'm just in awe of where it's come. And for everybody else on the call, to be able visually to be able to see how the things start to connect together, it took me a couple of, well, about 20 minutes to get my head around, okay, what are they asking for? And then once I just started writing things down, I'm not complete. This is not my complete list. And as I'm looking at it now, I'm going, oh, okay. And then when Janet and I got on the phone, we started bouncing ideas off of each other, and it became this a collaborative moment of, oh, I see what you're doing there. Oh yeah, we have things similarly to that. And we could kind of share. And I actually have people on campus now that I need to pull into this conversation, because I have more ideas of how we are connecting and how we collaborate out together. So having the visual, David, is 1,000 times better than trying to explain it in just words, because now I can see, and hopefully everybody else can see, oh, this is how we can start truly mapping out how we interweave together to make this amazing coalition of things that we provide to students or people.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Beth and Martin. I think you hit on a really important point of, once you get to that visualization, it starts to come together, and you can see how this opens up opportunities for similar organizations to find new ways that they can collaborate with one another, right? If I'm doing parallel work with another organization is also doing, well, we should be at least talking and exchanging some practices on how we can both do our work better. So this is really meant short term to be a tool for everyone on this call and anyone who considers themselves an ecosystem builder to better understand the connective tissue that's linking all of our organizations together.
Yeah, this is Jeanette. Yeah, I with Beth, I agree. One of the hardest things I think though that we had kind of wrapped our head around was you have to reach out. There's so many other people, and I don't think that any one of us really knows all the connections. I think that might be the key, is you need to tag with your team. You need to find out who's doing what, because if you don't, you're not going to get all your players. I think that's what Beth and I were trying to figure out. How do you get all the players? How do you get, and the data information that you need the data information, correct? You need, what the program is and who supports it, who funds it, where is it coming from and where is it going to? Those details are really going to help. But I think as you put it on paper, that's fabulous. And I'm with Beth. That shows the connection and exactly what you're looking for.
Great. Well, thank you so much. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to share with everyone first a very simple worksheet we put together, and then what we're thinking is the timeline on our work here. So what we're talking about today is kind of the first part of two steps. The first step being actually mapping and visualizing Utah's workforce ecosystem. And we want to get something out and have it published so that anyone who hasn't had a chance to give their input can see what might not be right about the map, so we can continuously improve it and make it more valuable for everyone who has access to it. So that's the first step for us. The second step after that is looking at that question 3 that we asked, which is, what are the metrics being used to evaluate the different programs, right? All of these different blue dots, both specifics from, so you can see that, like, for example, custom fit is obviously in a lot of the different technical colleges, basically every single one in the state. So how can we produce aggregate data on the effectiveness of this program in producing a skilled workforce, as an example? And that's the second step that we're looking to do, is to get both of those specific metrics, the aggregates, and then also how we evaluate the connections between organizations and the connections between programs for different degrees of closeness, centrality, and other sort of stakeholder network analyses that we can do. So in the very short term, we've put together a very simple worksheet that I'll put into the chat right now. I'll put that link in, and it asks basically the same questions that we asked of Marty, Jeanette, and Beth, which is, first and very simply, is tell us what your organization is. I'll make this, if you wouldn't mind, if anyone wants to work on this, to make a quick copy, just go to File, and then what is it? Make a copy right here at the top, and then you're free to follow along with us for the next 20 minutes or so that we'll work on this. The first question is very simple. Tell us your organization. If I haven't got you on the map yet, I can add you right now while we're on the call. And then after that, what is your organization doing? What activities, either specific titled programs or general activities that you're doing to support workforce development in Utah? And then you can simply list these. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, David, I just want to jump in here. Can we just start on number one? Let's do it, man. Let's do it in real time. So the question, right, is, is your everyone on this call? We got whatever 27 people on the call. Is every organization, on the call? Now we also have Nico Thomas from NIST MVP headquarters, so he doesn't count. We're just talking our Utah stakeholders. You do count, Nico. We love you, but and Phil Singerman. I see Phil Singerman from AMCC's on the call too. So, for those Utah stakeholders, like what organizations right now on this call are not reflected on this map?
It'd be hard to see. I'm looking through the chat as well.
Okay, yeah, maybe that's the place you populate it.
So Advanced Robotics for Manufacturing Institute. This will be Emma. I don't have this on the map yet.
Yeah, so that was a question. So the ARM Institute, we are not based in Utah. We're a partner on the Utah DMC, but we are not based in Utah, although we are a National Manufacturing Innovation Institute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point. So like on this map, we're gonna have to figure out, how to reflect that. So this is great. This is the kind of brainstorming we really need from you guys. Yeah.
Great. And so I've just added you very quickly as a partner to the DMC SP program. Oops. All right. Are there others in the chat that I don't recognize? I see a couple of.
America Makes.
Well,
Yeah.
same idea, right? Yeah.
Additive Manufacturing Innovation Institute.
So yeah, there's going to be a whole category for sure of additional federal intervention partners. So this is good to start building that out, for sure. What Utah stakeholders, David, do you want to maybe show how people could open up the map again on their own computer so they could zoom in? Yeah, because
I will just share my link to everyone.
There you go. So walk them through how they open this link and then look at this themselves, on their own computer. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is actually so we're using an intermediary platform called Kumu.io, which has basically a free stakeholder mapping service, which is available for the public to search through these early maps. As we're moving towards our own online dashboard, it's likely that we'll be using a different system for the final version. But for now, and for this exercise, this is the quick and easy way to get people on populated on the map. So one thing that we would love, resulting from this workshop is if you're listening in and your organization isn't on the map, to let us know, and then to also help us out with these very brief worksheets, either as we are going along for the next 15 minutes, or also following up with us after, because we're more than happy to keep working with you, and if you have others at your organization who would want to be part of this project, we would of course be happy to have them.
And so going on from, assuming everybody on the call is in an organization that's reflected on the map, the next baby step is like, of course, you're involved in all kinds of partnerships with other organizations in the Utah manufacturing workforce ecosystem. Look at them, like who's missing on there. I know Tulinda and David and others at UAMI, are involved in a whole slew of initiatives in the manufacturing workforce. It's like it begs the question, going through all of your list of activities, who are partners that you have that you don't see on the map, and then just list them out, and then David will help us build that out and get connected to those folks, and then asking them, to from their perspective, how do they see the map? How can they add value to it? Because as our friends have already articulated, seeing the map is an initiator for greater collaboration and of course more accurate depiction, right? Which is ultimately one of the important steps forward in making progress here.
Hey, Matt, I think this could be a good time right now to introduce someone from Connect's Marketplace as well. Cool. To let us in on how they're supporting Utah's workforce development with their module on Connect's Marketplace, and then also how they should be represented on this map. So Dana or someone else from Connect's Marketplace, would you want to add maybe who some of your key partners are, or if there's any specific programs that we should be adding to this map?
I'm just going to jump in. This is Tulinda, then I'll turn it to Dana. So under the Defense Manufacturing Community Support Program grant that Utah received in 2020, which we call the Utah Manufacturing Community Support, UDMC, Utah Defense Manufacturing Defense Community, whatever. One of our tasks was to add to Connects, which Dana will explain Connects, a workforce module, which is a place where workforce organizations can register their services and manufacturers can view their services. It's a one-way mirror where the manufacturers can find the workforce participants, but the workforce participants can't go in and data mine the manufacturers. But Dana, you talk more about Connects Utah and Connects Marketplace.
Yeah, thanks to Linda. It was through UAMI getting us started on the workforce where we do this module, and they provided the funding for that. So we do have a workforce module within Connects along with the other things that we do. And we actually are associated with many organizations within Utah, even though we are national. And so UAMI is one of our biggest partners, of course. But we work together to help manufacturers be able to offer internships, apprenticeships, where we can also figure out what they need what skills they need from workforce so that those skills can be provided for the manufacturers. There's just a lot of opportunity to bring in people into the manufacturing world at a younger age, like you said, with K through 12. So we work with all of that. Some of our biggest partners would be America Makes, the World Trade Center at Utah, of course, Weber, Davis College. We work a lot with Hill Air Force Base. There's so many, I couldn't even name them all, and I can't see them all right now. But we really are active in the Utah state working on the workforce model. So we definitely would want to be part of this to be able to help further it along.
So you guys have seen, like in real time, David is created a Connects marketplace bubble and showing the connection to UAMI and the Defense Manufacturing Community Support Program, as well as America Makes. And so you can see, once we get this thing going, and this will be all kind of optimized ultimately as we build this tool with a playbook that goes along with it, so that ultimately any region around the country can do this. But we're working through the steps with you guys. So this has been fun to watch David do that voodoo that he does, but we hope to have this, so that anybody can do it going forward. David, do you want to amplify what you just did?
Oh yeah, no, I think everyone saw my adding on my dots and my lines. It's one of my favorite things to do. Does anyone have any questions, or is there anything that you think would be helpful to include for our own thinking when doing this project? This is just an open call if anyone has questions or would like to participate if they haven't yet, on helping me build this map out. I could ask a more specific question. Do the people on this call find this as a valuable exercise, and as we work towards a final product, could see the value that they would be able to implement this sort of approach with in Utah? I see a nod or two. Okay, well, we can all be we'll be slow on that. Nico, do you want to give a little background on NIST participation in this project?
Sure thing. So greetings, everybody. Pleasure to be here. Good to see you, Dave and Matt. So this is a very interesting and important project to us, and we're happy to be partnering with AMCC on this and with many of our other federal partners in the regions around the country. We think there's tremendous value in defining measures of success, indicators of interest around the 6 pillars that Matt and David have discussed already. Workforce is a big issue to us as well. And from the federal perspective, we want to figure out how we can make the interventions or the investments that we make into the manufacturing communities much stronger and more efficient in terms of creating real tangible impacts and values and value for the communities in which we're trying to engage with. And we all know manufacturing is critical and will be critical for us moving forward. And if you think about it from the federal perspective, which is where I'm sitting right now, there are so many different actors and stakeholders in the manufacturing community. I think there's over 20 different programs that are manufacturing focused in the US federal government. But sitting here in the Manufacturing Extension Partnership Program, the headquarters level, I can't rattle off all 20 of those programs and the effectiveness of the interventions that they're making. Now, imagine that perspective at a state level, and when there's different manufacturing stakeholders at your level, and then from state to state. So what we're trying to figure out is how we can best tie all these community stakeholders together, understand what they're interested in, what outcomes we're trying to drive towards, and then figure out ways in which we could make those more efficient. And the way in which we can tie all this together is through data. We're all interested in data. We're all understanding the outcomes of interest that are important to us. If we can create a common language through the metrics that we track and the indicators that we're interested in, that would be a great way to tie these manufacturing interested stakeholders and programs together to really maximize the value. So as we move away from just impacting manufacturers, but also impacting the industry of manufacturing, we have to get to this level of information to really drive value home. So I'm thrilled to be a part of this. We've made tremendous progress since when we first started, and it was a conversation between 2 or 3 people. Now we have communities engaged. Now we have more federal stakeholders engaged, and we're really starting to kick progress off. So when I look at the map that's being created and we can get to the granularity of Utah, it's really amazing to see. And if we're able to scale us up across not only Utah, but other regional communities focused on manufacturing, and to tie it together at a national view, I think it's going to bring, I know it's going to bring tremendous value to not only us and NSMEP, but regional communities and to the US public, as we are so reliant on the success of the manufacturing industry domestically. So thank you for putting this session together. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I think we've made tremendous progress. There's still work to do, and we're going to be here all along the way. So thank you again.
Thanks, Nico. Yeah, so David, why don't we talk about the 30-minute ask that we have post-call of everyone, in terms of helping to populate the map, at least, of organizations and initiatives you happen to know about, in the manufacturing workforce ecosystem.
Yeah, definitely. So this would be the worksheet that I've shared in the chat. I can share the link again. Ideally, on our end, we would ask that anyone on this call who would like to participate spends no more than 30 minutes helping us answer these 5 questions. We've talked about them multiple times today. One is just tell us who your organization is. Tell us what activities and programs that your organization is doing to support workforce development in your region. Tell us who you're partnering with, and what specific programs or general activities you're doing with your partner or that your partner's doing. And then the last question is broaden it further. Who isn't on the map that should be? Who are we not thinking about? And you don't have to know everything, but of what you do know, if you can help us build this map out. That's really an important point of this, is no one's expected to know all of this. It's impossible for any one person to know it. But by creating this data collection framework, which is really what we're aiming to do here, that's community driven, we can get a bunch of different people's best guesses on how things work in Utah, aggregating them together to actually produce some value for everyone.
So yeah, so we this thing is designed, of course, with our input from our Utah partners already, to be super simple exercise. So kind of, our collective ask is, is there anyone on the call who can't spend 30 minutes and just filling out that form, with what you happen to know? Because if you can't do it, we want to hear why, because of course we're trying to perfect the process. This is a tool development process, and we need your input to help other regions also around the country, figure out this. So is there anyone on this call listening right now who cannot take the 30 minutes to give us your take from your perch about what you know about your region's manufacturing workforce ecosystem? Awesome. Well, that sounds good, David. That's assent, I think, to this process. So thanks in advance, for you taking the 30 minutes to do that. We look forward, David, once they fill out this form with their, with everybody's take, what happens to it? How do they send it to you? Tell us about the process.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt. Yes, if everyone who would like to participate could, you could either reach out to me if you got questions that you want to ask in private off of this recorded workshop. I'll put my email into the chat right now, and I'm happy to work with you on adding your data points to the map. And I'm also happy if you'd like to go deeper inside your organization to get a number of people to work on this. I'd be more than happy to conduct a similar workshop like this. All you have to do is reach out and ask. And as Matt has said, even more broadly, as we're developing this tool and this methodology along with Nico and everyone at NIST, if you have feedback and suggestions on ways we could do it better or make it more meaningful to you, please also email me that, because that's the whole point of these workshops that we're trying to do. We're trying to ground truth it and make sure that it works for you first and foremost.
Quick question, David.
Mhm.
So when individuals want to fill out this worksheet, once they're finished with it, they save it and send it directly to you, or is there a submit button somewhere, or how are you wanting them to do that?
Thanks, Beth. Yeah, if you could send it directly to me via email. Long term, we want to have something, a prompter that people can put in that information themselves, but we don't have that yet. So it's me doing it. I'm your prompter.
Good question.
Great.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to close it out unless there were
Yeah.
any other questions. This is awesome. Feedback, formal, informal, on the side, up front, whatever, would be well received. It takes a village to put all this together, and you guys, Utah is leading the way. To Linda, thank you and your team and Marty and so many others for engaging on this important project, right? We're in this international competition with dictatorships, and we have a lot of things that we can improve on here at home for our people in every region if we get these tools and tactics right. And this is an important step forward to what Nico was saying, to strengthening American manufacturing across the board. So thanks for Utah's leadership, being on this call, responding to the prompt on the worksheet. Thank you very much in that, and giving us any other feedback. So I'll hand it off to you, David, to close it out. Yeah.
Great. Thank you again, everyone. We'll be in touch with a link of this recording, as well as all of the resources that we shared today. The presentation, a link to this map, of course, which is currently public and you're able to check out at your leisure, as well as the worksheet that we shared around earlier. And I'm looking forward to hearing back from many of you. So thank you again for attending and participating today. We hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon.